Welcome to the Art of Love podcast. My name is Tamar, Gail, and I am here to guide you into deeper, more expansive love, freedom, and pleasure. A deep inner journey of self-discovery. Here, I will cover all types of topics pertaining to love, including self-love and self-care, relationships, Tantra, intimacy, sex, all the way to Christ Consciousness and Pachamama, just to name a few broad topics. My mission is to support you in being true to yourself, reconnecting the fragmented pieces and aspects of yourself so that you can find and use your own inner fire, Shakti power, and voice. It is time to break down the old systems that we have been taught to live by. I would love to see you align with your personal truth and nature instead of succumbing to others' views of how you should be, trying to fit inside of the box in order to be accepted, and instead standing in your power and loving all that you are, accessing a new way of being in the world. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Art of Love podcast. Today, I am with Anique Radiant Hearts, High Priestess of the Global Goddess, who is an inspiring elder of the goddess community in Australia and the world. She has been sharing her glorious original goddess music and teachings all over the world for the last 40 plus years. And at age 72, Anique has birthed 6 goddess CDs of original music designed to open the heart and has organized goddess conferences in Australia, USA, and now Europe. She leads sacred pilgrimages to sacred sites of the goddess in Crete and Egypt and plans more tours coming up in Mexico and India. She has created and teaches a 3-year priestess training, which is a path of self-discovery and self-mastery, transforming women into their sovereign selves. Anique, thank you so much for joining us today and for sharing your wisdom with us. Can you give us a little bit of the background of what got you started on this path of the goddess and sovereignty and self-mastery?
Well, I guess the story really starts a long time ago when I was a teenager, because I come from a family background where arranged marriages are still, in fact, today in my family that still happens. So I really went from being a teenager to being a wife, and so I really didn't, I suppose I wasn't exposed to very much, let's put it that way. I had a very sheltered upbringing. So lo and behold, 11 years into an arranged marriage and 2 children, 2 sons, 2 beautiful boys, feminism came my way, and I found women who just opened up my mind, and I realized that, in fact, the path that I had walked was not the path for me. I certainly wanted to live. I wanted to understand what life is all about. I wanted to explore and experience the way a teenager does, in a way, because my teenage years had not been open to me. So in finding feminism, it was a very, very short hop, if you like, into lesbianism. And so I found feminism, lesbianism, and then the women that I happened to meet happened to be goddess women. And when I, of course, discovered or uncovered the extraordinary rich history of the ancient civilizations of matrifocal goddess cultures, my whole existence was transformed, and I could no longer wear the old skin. And so I literally shed that skin and started to read everything I possibly could about goddess worship, about matriarchal cultures and what they mean, and also read as much as I could from feminist authors about what it might mean to be an empowered woman in this now 21st century. And so goddess came to me as a way of growing and empowering myself to be the best that I could be.
Wow. What an interesting. And so you grew up in a culture that had an arranged marriage.
Yeah. I was born in Egypt.
Okay.
And many of the marriages are arranged still today there, and certainly in parts of my family, they are still happening today. So it's in a way, it's sort of in a way it kind of works, I've seen it in other cultures as well. I think it happens in some Italian families and also some Greek families and, other European countries that I know about. And in many ways it works quite well because often it's some kind of arrangement between families, and there are all these kind of unspoken about but accepted behaviours, which means that, men and women can have other relationships, but as long as the marriage stays strong, basically for the continuation of the clan, then everything's okay. So it's not as bad as it sounds, although as a feminist, for me, of course, it's absolutely anathema, to think that your father basically chooses your husband is just not something I support.
Yeah, I can imagine my own, if I had my own experience with that.
Yeah.
So is this what brought you to, I'm hearing an echo of myself. So I'm fix that. Huh. All right, we'll just have to sit and see. Okay. So is this what brought you into leading, going deeper into Egyptian goddess community and doing pilgrimages to Egypt? Is that your own background was in Egypt? When, I guess my question is, when did you really start going into your own history of Egypt?
I was always very, very attracted to the goddesses of Egypt, particularly Hathor. Mm-hmm. For me, she signified or I resonated with that energy in her, which was about beauty, creativity, music particularly, because she was always associated with the mystery schools and music. And so Hathor, Isis, was always very, very interesting to me because she combined her powerful goddess self with her seer self. So she was able to really see into the future, which was why she was such a powerful goddess or deity for her people, because she was prophetic. And then, of course, there's Sekhmet, the goddess of justice, which always fascinated me. And she's lion-headed, and I have Leo rising, so there was that resonance with her. So really, the goddesses of Egypt resonated with me in a way that had nothing really to do with the fact that I was born there. But, of course, it has everything to do with the fact that I was born there, not only one lifetime, but I feel many, many lifetimes. And, in fact, I believe that I lived all the lifetimes I was going to live in Egypt. And then that finished when I was 9 years old. So when I was 9, the family all came over to Australia. And so I began this lifetime really at the age of 9 here in Australia. And I believe now I'll probably have several lifetimes in Australia. And then who knows, of course. So my connection to Egypt is just not from being born there this lifetime, but from many, many lifetimes. And I resisted going back there for quite a long time, really. I thought to myself, well, I'm done there. Let's explore the world, so to speak. But not too long ago, I think it was 3 years ago, a wise Aboriginal elder, a dear sister friend of mine, Billawara Lee, who's my co-visionary for the Australian Goddess Conference, said to me that you realise that you will have to go back to Australia and you will have to go back to Egypt and tell your ancestors where you are, and also take some dirt from Egypt and bring it back to Australia and bury it where you are, so that when you pass, your ancestors will know where to find you. Well, this just, when she was speaking, it came into my heart, and it just resonated so deeply. And so I decided, okay, well, I'll go back to Egypt. If I'm going to go back, well, let's take some women with me and let's go on a tour and all explore together all these amazing sacred sites that I've studied, and let's bring them into life and see what that does for us. So I organised my first tour to Egypt, which was 2 years ago. I've done 2 now. And it was extraordinary. When I was in the Temple of Hathor and I was in the ancestors' chamber, I connected with my ancestors and asked them, why have you called me back? And part of the answer, apart from this amazing, beautiful process where they said to me, we wanted to see you where you are now. We wanted to see you in the physical. We want you to introduce us to your children, to your lineage. We want you to understand what your journey truly is now that you're in the last quarter of your life, which is the golden years and the time, I feel, when, as women anyway, we really come into our power. We really understand who we are, and we are sensitive to but are not impacted upon by the opinions of others, so that we can truly bring through our true essence. And so they spoke to me really deeply about that and about what they had planned for me when I was first thought of so many lifetimes ago. And they opened up certain ways of seeing for me, where when I went around the temples, and the experience at Dendera, the Temple of Hathor, is the last temple we go to on the tour. So when I came back last year, which was the last time I was there, and I arrived early and took a special journey by myself to the temple at Dendera and talked with the ancestors and said, ask them, what is it that you are actually doing here with me? And they explained to me that when I walk through the temples now, looking at the hieroglyphs will be a completely different experience to me. And so I did. I took myself on a walk all around the temple and looked at the walls, and it was truly amazing. The only way that I can describe it is that what I saw was not static images, but actually visions of what those hieroglyphs were talking about. And, of course, being able to see the visions, I was able to understand many layers, many different layers, but just the 2D effect. So I feel that my journey with Egypt is really only just beginning again in a way, because I'm re-understanding so many things.
How beautiful. How beautiful.
It's a blessing. I feel truly humbled by it.
I can imagine. Going on a trip one of these days. I have a deep connection with, as many of us do, on this path. It is my goal to do this.
Well, I pray you will come with me one day.
I hope so too. that would be a blessing. For sure. You said something about the golden years and how it's really the time of your life when to understand your ancestors, to understand your path, to understand the magnitude, basically, of what you're here to do in the world. Can you go a little bit deeper?
Yes. Well, my singing, I feel, is inexorably involved in there, because I believe that we all come through with one primary gift that we bring through. For me, it was very, very easy to understand what that is, because I know that there are very many of my sisters that have many, many gifts. So, for example, I have sisters that are incredible healers. They have all kinds of healing modalities embedded within them that they access through whatever process they do and then transfer out into the world. And so it may be difficult, somebody who has a wide range of gifts, to kind of focus on one that is their given gift. For me, it was so easy. It was singing, because from the time I was born, I mean, my mother used to always say to me, you know, when I talked with her jokingly about, you know, how grateful I am for the voice that she gave me and so on, she said, oh, I had nothing to do with it. You came out singing. And, you know, I asked others. I asked my aunt, for example, and cousins, is this true? Do you know this about my birth? Is there any way that I can verify that I actually came out singing? And because I wanted to know. And my aunt, who was her older sister and was present, because women always supported themselves like they do now in the red tent, supported each other through these processes. And my aunt said, yes, indeed, when you came out and you made sounds, they were not crying sounds. To us, it sounded like singing sounds, like cooing, you know, sounds. And so obviously, you know, my gift has always been the singing. And in moving through my life, I realised, okay, well, when I was very small, when I was 3 was the first time I sang in public, I realised it was my power, because all of a sudden I got all the attention. So in my 3-year-old mind, I knew, okay, well, this is something special. And then when I went to high school, because I was never very left brain, I've always been more right brain. You know, I couldn't do the maths and the science. And so I used to sing. I'd become bored. And so I'd leave the class. I'd go outside and I'd sing and kind of re-energize myself, I guess, because I was so bored, and then go back into the classroom. Well, one day when I did that, the music teacher, I didn't know it was the music teacher, but the music teacher was walking by. He was a mad Russian. I remember his name to this day, Mr. Zamstra, his name was. You know, he heard me sing, and I had not chosen music as one of the subjects in high school. Anyway, he came over to me. He said, I lead a choir. I'd love you to come and be in the choir. So, of course, I went to the choir, and immediately he gave me all the solos. So once again, I realized, oh, you know, I'm a little bit different to all the rest. You know, I've got this extra attention again. And so again, I understood the power of my singing. And then fast forward, you know, to an adult, I became a jazz vocalist. There's lots of interesting stories, but I won't take up time with that. I became a jazz vocalist. And again, you know, my voice and my singing put me in the spotlight. So I guess my journey without my singing would not have taken me where I am, because I'm a very confident person. I mean, I'm the sort of person that's waiting in the wings. I can't wait till the person who's on stage is finished so I can get on. You know, I don't have any stage fright at all. And so that has translated into a very deep confidence for me, which has been very, very helpful. At times difficult, because people see that as I wanting to take up a lot of space. But in fact, it's about deeply understanding. So now where I am with my singing, I deeply, deeply understand that it's my way of helping people heal. Because whenever I teach, even if it's a workshop that is completely unrelated to my music, I will always begin by singing for the group, because I know that my voice opens the heart. It's involuntary. It's irresistible. And so the heart opens, the resistance flows away, and people can truly hear my teachings. Because I'm sure you teach, and I'm sure you know that there's always some resistance in the group.
Yeah.
And that, I feel, is because there are so many charlatans around. There are so many people around that don't have the juice. And so people have been to so many that disappoint them, that when they do come across someone that has something authentic to share, even if it is just a beautiful song, they're already in resistance. Yeah. Because of their past experiences. So for me, it's such a blessing to be able to have this gift that I can share, and which opens up a connection, a passageway, a conduit between me and those that I'm teaching and wanting to share my stuff with. And I feel blessed by that.
Yes, definitely. And could you have a way that could help someone that wants to find out what their gift is?
Absolutely. I am an absolute proponent, highly, highly dedicated to working with women particularly, because I'm a woman, so I know this body, working with women and the chakras. Now, the chakras have been done to death. There's no doubt about it. Everyone wants to teach about the chakras. But what I found, and I did a lot of seeking and searching, I went to a lot of workshops, so many workshops. I talked to so many people about the chakras and so on, but never once did I get a sense of any kind of resonance for me in terms of working with these energy centers in the body, until I understood that there has to be a way for me to connect with those energies other than visualizing a red ball or a ball of energy spinning or a wheel spinning or whatever. So I did a lot of study, and I narrowed down, if you like, what each chakra represents or how we can work with each chakra to an essential one or two things. So, for example, for me, the root chakra is the place where the energy center, if you like, or the cauldron, where all our memories are stored of the messages that we receive from our families and the overculture about who we are. So when we're a small child, if a parent says to us, oh, you're a lazy so-and-so, okay, well, that goes in there. If as a small child, as the parent says, oh, you're so impatient, that goes in there. And so in the root center, we hold all the messages that we've ever received in our lives. And, of course, when we start to do the healing work and we want to release those ideas particularly, or the paradigms, if you like, of our lives that don't assist us anymore, how do we do that? Well, there's all sorts of ways of doing it. But for me, the only way that I could really feel I was removing things was to imagine a goddess whose energy is all about that. And so I started to imagine that Kali resided in my root chakra. And I worked with her, and I've developed a whole way of working with each goddess. I create an altar to her. I have one intention that I wish to work on, and I write a beautiful affirmation about that on a piece of cardboard and decorate it beautifully. And I create a space where I can sit with Kali to work on whatever it is that's in my root chakra that I don't need anymore. And, of course, there's chanting and prayers. I started to do that with my own messages. So one of the messages that my mother used to say to me all the time is, you're too loud, you're too loud. And so I wanted to work with that first because I interpreted loud in many ways. And it was extraordinary. I would sit in meditation, I would bring Kali up into my inner eye field, I would talk with her and ask her, and then I would watch her. I would watch her as she burned away that. I could see it as words in front of my eyes, and she would touch each one slowly and burn them away. And, of course, it doesn't happen after you do it one time. This is what I keep saying to my students, I mean, you don't sit down at the piano and play a concerto, You begin with the scales, and then eventually, of course, you do play a concerto. And it's the same kind of process. In working with the energies, assiduously and continually, we begin to really merge with those energies, and then we're doing it ourselves. We're releasing it ourselves. It gets to a point where the goddess doesn't need to do it anymore. We connect with her, with that energy, and we release ourselves. And what I see, interestingly, is when I'm releasing, I see my heart, and I see it dripping. It's almost like black blood drips into this little golden chalice. And as the black blood drips into the golden chalice, it's transformed into pure water. And then I can drink that water, and I can feel that energy has been released from my body. Again, a little bit more. And I've worked with many things through the chakras. And, of course, each chakra is for different things. So, for example, if there's issues around fear, so I work with the solar plexus. And the goddess for that solar plexus is Pele, and the goddess of volcanoes. I use her to bring up all the fear and just belch it out through the voice. So I don't really remember the question anymore. That's what happens when you're 72. You kind of get passionate and lose the thread. But I think you're asking me about, how I work, whatever the question was. I hope that's answered it.
I was asking if you had a way that people could find their gift.
Yes. So the same thing can be done if you want to find your life's purpose. Now, your life's purpose is stored in the third eye. So you work with the third eye, and the goddess that I have at the third eye is Isis. So basically, you work with Isis to strip away what has been overlaid, so that you can actually go back to what was there when you took form. When I took this form, I came through complete, intact, with all the memories of my past life. But in the 3 months when we are born, we have a hole at the top of our head called the fontanella, and this stays open for about 3 months until it gradually closes. During those first 3 months, we download everything that we knew in the void before we took form. And so if we work with this center, and it's stored here, we download through the crown, and it's stored here in the third eye. So if we work with those energies, we can uncover what our true soul purpose is and what our true gift is. I don't know of any other way. We can go to psychics who will tell us it's this or that, or You know, we can work with spirit guides who can also be very, very useful, I must admit. But it is only us, it is only you, it is only I that came through with that information.
Yeah.
And we need to do the work to dig deep and find it.
And I think that's a great intro to the sovereignty and that you work with, self-mastery, the 3-year priestess training that you do. It's a path of self-discovery, self-mastery, and sovereignty. Can you explain? I know there's a lot of people who aren't really sovereign is a word that not everyone understands. Can you explain a little bit about sovereignty?
Yes. For me, sovereignty is truly claiming who we are, claiming the absolute pinnacle of who we are. And I guess you can use kings and queens as an example, you know, because the queen is at the top of her realm. She rules all that are beneath her, if you like. In a way, that's the same thing for us. When we are in our sovereign selves, we have dominion, or we are in charge of the many different archetypes that live within us. We are not just a woman, full stop. We are ancestor woman, we are birthing woman, we are blossoming woman, we are woman in our fullness, we are woman in our deepening. You know, we are the warrior archetype, we are the creatrix archetype. We are so many different aspects of woman within us. When we are truly in our sovereignty, not only can we identify whatever archetype is calling us or stepping forward, if you like, within us at any time, we can function through that archetype equally well as any other. So I have seen many, many women who function really, really well through the nurturer. We are naturally able to do that. And there are a lot of women now claiming the warrior and stepping forward into that. But there are not many women, for example, that are claiming the archetype of enchantress. And, for example, what an enchantress is to me is a woman that really knows how to mold the energy that she puts out into the world in exactly the right way in any situation. I see women really, really struggling with that.
Yeah.
Mostly what women do is they mold themselves to be whatever will be most acceptable in any situation. So for me, when we are truly in our sovereignty, we can be whoever we need to be in any moment, feeling fully supported from within ourselves, not needing any support from the outside, feeling fully enabled and empowered with whatever we need to be that in any moment. And part of that too is being in our integrity, integrity woman. When we are in our integrity, we can be what is real in that moment, not what anybody else or what the world, might say is the right way to be. And I think that is, being the enchantress, I think is probably one of the hardest archetypes for women to embody, because we live in a patriarchy which is not safe, in a patriarchy that encourages judgment and shaming. And so it is very hard for us as women, because we still carry that seed of vulnerability because we are less physically powerful than men. We still carry that ultimate fear that the patriarchy will squash us if we don't behave accordingly.
Yeah.
So when I train priestesses, of course I teach them how to create wonderful ceremony. We create beautiful sacred tools, how to set up sacred space, how to transform energy through using many, many different modalities. All that is taught, of course. But really what the underlying teaching is about clearing the vessel so that our true sovereign self, our true embodied goddess can shine through. And that's what a priestess needs to be. A priestess needs to embody that power, grace, and sovereignty for others.
Yes. I love how you put that. Very, very well said. And I think that can really open a lot of women up to understanding themselves in a totally new way. Yeah, thank you for explaining sovereignty. So in your 3-year priestess training, do you work with women from all over the world? Is this something that they have to be in Australia, or is this something that they travel to you? How does that work?
Well, at the moment, and I'm doing my 3rd training now, at the moment I'm doing face-to-face.
Okay.
Because, and I have a beautiful temple here at the back of my home. There is a separate building, which is the Temple of the Global Goddess. We have one here, which is the Mother House, and there's also a temple in Sydney as well, which is the presiding priestess there is my apprentice, Marie Lipschitz, and also the guardian, Deborah Franco, and they're both women that I've trained and nurtured. Face-to-face is important for me at this point because I feel that part of what is needed is the transmission that comes through me. So the transmission, the energy, comes through me through my eyes, through my voice, and through the chakras of my body. And so when we are encircled in the temple, I never prepare. I never have and never will. What I have is I have very detailed and beautiful notes that the priestesses receive at the end of the training each month. But when I'm in temple, there is a framework within which I'm working because I've devised a wheel, and each wheel is related to different aspects of the training. And so if we're in the void, for example, we always begin in the void. If we're in the void, of course, the teaching will be around that. But I never use notes. I allow her to speak through me. I truly step out of the way and just let her speak. And sometimes I'm amazed by what comes out of my mouth. And I know that priestesses have been saying to me since I began training, you really need to record this. I resist because I understand clearly that outside of that context, the recordings may be completely useless to anybody else because what I bring through is precisely for that group. And it's different every time. It's really interesting. I have a priestess assisting me on the training from the last training. I do that each time. And I often say to them, do you remember that this is what I was teaching when you did it in your year? And they always say, no, actually it's not. It's like I've been at a whole new training. So to answer your question, I think for now the power of my teaching is that. But it also could happen, say, with Zoom. I'm seeing now that Zoom is a lot better actually than Skype. I tried to train online with Skype, but it kept dropping out all the time and so on. But this seems to be much more steady. So maybe the day will come soon when I can also do some online trainings.
That would be really beautiful because I'm sure that so many women would be really interested in joining something like this to go deeper and into opening up that vessel, their body temple, and really honoring and coming into their sovereignty. And I think that's really beautiful work that you're doing. And I'm so excited to maybe one day join you in Egypt. Now for your pilgrimages, are they only for women that are in your training, or are they also for women that just want to join you for a pilgrimage?
Oh, any woman is welcome to join me on a privilege. On a privilege, wow, that's an interesting point. And it is the privilege. I do see it as a privilege. That's why it came out.
Yes, for sure.
It's a privilege for me to lead women and see them transform. No. You don't even have to be a goddess woman. You could just be interested in Egypt, or you could just want a really nice holiday somewhere where you wanted to go. I feel that I have had all kinds of women come, not only goddess women. There have been women who just wanted a really nice holiday with other women where they could feel safe, where they wouldn't be touched with other men and things like that. And the experience in itself is such a beautiful one because being the age that I am, the tours are leisurely. That's the start. And so for me, there's a reason for that, not just that I like them to be leisurely, but women lead extraordinarily busy lives and they demand so much of themselves because the culture tells us we're superwomen and that we can do 1,000 things. And in fact, we should. We're the masters of multitasking, etc. And so women come just to have a beautiful experience. And what they don't realize is that in the leisurely pace of the tour, they can really start to wind down. And what happens when you wind down? Everything that covers your heart, the protection, because when you're leading such a frenetic life and such a demanding life, the heart has to protect. Otherwise, you just become completely depleted. So you come on the pilgrimage gently and gracefully. You're led through a process which is designed. It's not accidental. You're led through a process that allows you, first of all, to relax. And then the sights become more and more provocative. So that you're drawn in, to a process of thinking, which I guide, a process of thinking that links you to those amazing ancient goddesses that are so powerful. And they're waiting, they're just waiting, for women to discover them again, to uncover them again, to excavate them again. And so as the tour progresses, more and more and more women are starting to understand, wow, I don't have to be so busy for a start. Secondly, 5 minutes of sacred immersion gives me more energy than a whole night's sleep. This is what becomes apparent. So many things become apparent. And so I encourage women who have never even thought about being a priestess or simply who are wishing to be in a divinely beautiful energy, to enjoy and relax. Come along. You'll find much more than that, but you'll certainly get that much needed break of beauty that most women in this world need.
Yeah. Yes, they do. We see a lot of stress, anxiety, depression, overwork. There's too much of it in our society and our culture. And I think Australia is very similar to here in the US in that sense. That it's
absolutely.
Yeah. That
also at the moment I feel that we are really sitting in a cauldron of terrible fear. I avoid, watching the news. I watch it once a week because I feel it's my responsibility to stay in touch with what is going on in the world so that I can do my own magical work around that.
Yeah.
But I can only imagine that everybody else is feeling what I'm feeling when I watch this horror.
Yeah.
I immediately drop into fear. It's impossible not to. You can be as evolved as you like. I'm sure the Dalai Lama drops into fear. It's impossible not to feel that. And if not fear, at least some sense of this is not right. So we're all sitting in that cauldron, and the anxiety that most people are feeling, I mean, I live in a world of women, so I see mostly women. The level of anxiety that women are demonstrating to me is it makes me cry sometimes. And it's something, of course, that we have no control over because we are sitting in that energy. You cannot get away from the patriarchy. You cannot go, even to the moon. You can't get away from the patriarchy as it happens. But you know what I'm saying? We are constantly living in this anxiety. And so we have to do whatever we can, to alleviate that. What I say to my students and friends is just chant. Just when you wake up in the morning, give yourself 10 minutes and chant and see what it does for the body and also for the spirit. Because we have to find some medicine for it. And, medicine, you cannot ingest anything that will help. You can certainly be depressed and have anxiety. You can certainly get medication that will assist you, but it doesn't remove it.
It just covers it up.
Yeah. Whereas chanting will remove it for a time because what chanting does is brings the chakras into alignment, and stress and fear and all these non-loving energies is what I like to say, only happen when the chakras are out of alignment. If the chakras are in alignment, then that does not happen. You do not feel fear or anxiety. So I say to women, sing, sisters, sing. It's the cheapest and the most powerful self-help tool that you can have.
And is there a particular chant that you suggest for someone to begin?
Well, of course, I would say that any of my music is wonderful, but there are many well-known chants, and Om Namah Shivaya, which is a beautiful chant that most people know from the Hindu tradition, is very powerful. Those vowels, those sounds in Sanskrit are very, very powerful. And so I would suggest that chant that. Or a very beautiful and well-known goddess chant is she changes everything she touches, and everything she touches changes. That's a beautiful, simple chant, and I've rewritten it in a way that I feel takes us somewhere that is deeper and higher in vibration than the old one. Do you want me to demonstrate?
I would love that. Yes, I would love that. Could you please?
Yes. So the old chant is, she changes everything she touches, and everything she touches changes. That's beautiful in itself.
Yeah.
It didn't take me quite where I wanted to go. So I asked Goddess, I said, can I please have a new melody for that, Mother? And I waited, and then a few weeks later, this came through. She changes everything she touches, everything she touches changes. She changes all that she touches, and everything changes. Blessed be, blessed be, blessed be.
Blessed be, sister. Thank you.
So you can see that was just very short, but takes you to a completely different place. And already I feel that my energy's slowed down, and I'm filled with grace.
Yes.
Beginning a day like that makes you 10 steps ahead of the crowd. Imagine doing that, going into work, going into a board meeting, and listening to all the crap that goes on when the decision can be made in 1 minute and it takes 3 hours to come to a decision. Can you imagine how you can sit there filled with grace, and then when finally it comes to you to say your piece, you can be succinct and to the point and sit in your grace and not be affected by what's going on around you. Yes. That's what I want for women. That's what I want for us, because it's us that will bring through the ideas and the decisions that will change this world in the way that it needs to be changed. And thank the Goddess if the young ones are now stepping forward and demanding what women have been saying for centuries.
Yes. There's a shift, isn't there?
Yes.
Yeah. A beautiful shift. I think that is perfect. Thank you so much for coming on here and sharing that, and just sharing your voice and your wisdom and the love that just comes through. Is there anything else that you would like to share before we close today?
Yes, I want to share that my prayer is that women like you, Tamar, women like you, multiply by thousands and thousands and thousands of thousands and dedicate their lives to bringing through the truth, because we are in a time of remembering. This is the great, great remembering. And I just want to very quickly remind everyone who might be watching or listening about the Priestess Convocation in 2020 in Crete. Just Google Priestess Convocation in Crete 2020, when I'm gathering priestesses from all over the world to come together and work together to bring the mother world into being on this planet of ours. So that is my prayer.
And I will put that link in the bottom with your website and all the connections to you as well. And I did see that, and that is on my list of things that I want to do next year for 2020. So yes, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been such a pleasure. Thank you everyone for joining us, and we'll see you next week. And thank you everyone for joining us for The Art of Love. And I look forward to connecting with you again next Wednesday.